Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So my name is James. I'm a tech consultant at Central Park Library. Today we're gonna have a class on Zoom. So if you don't know what Zoom is, or well, you probably do since you're on Zoom right now, but Zoom is a platform for people and organizations to host meetings all over the internet. So just to let you know in advance, we are not affiliated or sponsored by Zoom at all. This is just something that we thought would be interesting and informative for you guys to learn about. So this is going to be probably a 45-minute program, a bit longer than our previous classes. So if you have any questions, if we have time at the end, we'll answer them then, and not before then probably. But yeah, if you have questions, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can type in your questions there, and then as I said before, if we have time afterwards, we'll try to answer them as well as we can. And then if we're out of time and you still have questions, please come to the tech center after uh, anytime the library is open and we can provide one-on-one help. So this whole class is being recorded, so if you need help or if you need to recap on what we went over, the recording will be posted to our YouTube channel and you can view it there. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so when you first open Zoom, this is what you're gonna see. This is our basic home screen. Now, I'm going to go over first participant controls. So what that means is what you can do as a participant inside a meeting. So I'm going to click on the join button. Oh, it's going to ask for a few things first. First, it's going to ask for the meeting ID. So the meeting ID, you can think of it as your personal phone number just for Zoom. So this is how you connect to other people on like a more personal meetings, instead of something like this where you join through a link. And so your meeting ID, you can find that, um, let's see, not on your settings. Your meeting ID, you can find that if you look under, okay, oops, sorry about that. If you look under new meeting, if you left click on the little arrow next to new meeting, it's going to bring up drop down menu and you can see your meeting ID there. And so typically you don't want to share that with people that you don't really know. The meeting ID is best used for people that you know personally and that you think you might have frequent meetings with. So joining a meeting, I have a meeting ready for us to join. I'm going to put in the meeting ID and then we'll see that there are a few options below that. So you can change your name if you wanted to show us uh, as your name as something else, or if you didn't want to turn on the audio right away because maybe the meeting might be a little noisy and you're not quite ready, so you can turn it off or on depending on how you're feeling. And if you didn't want to have your video on as soon as you join a meeting, you can select this option, and when you join the meeting, your camera won't be turned on. So I'm going to press join, and it's also going to ask for a passcode. So I have that too, and I'm going to enter that in and press join meeting. Okay, so when this is also another preemptive measure before you join a meeting, it's going to ask you if it looks okay, and I'm saying it looks okay, so I'm going to press join. And so this is And when you join, it's going to ask you again if you hadn't selected it before, if you want to join the computer audios, I'm going to press join. I'm going to exit that. So here, we're going to, let's start with the camera controls. So right now, I'm noticing that this might not be something I want other people to see in the meeting, the background that is. So if I come over to where it says stop video, I'm going to click on this arrow, left click, and if I click on video settings and I come to background and effects. So right now we don't have any filter on our background It's just it's just showing everything the camera is seeing. But let's say I don't want that that mess to be seen on the camera. So I'm going to click on blur. And what it's going to do is going to blur everything around the object. And so the object here is going to be probably like a person on screen. And we have Darth Vader sitting in for us quite politely. Thank you, Darth Vader. But let's say there's still too much detail in the background that we didn't want to see. I'm going to click on the other options that we have. I'm going to click on the Golden Gate Bridge. And we'll see that we're not in the office anymore. Darth Vader is on a nice overlook viewing the Golden Gate Bridge. And you can even add your own options if you wanted to with this little plus sign on the right side, but we won't do that now. So I'm gonna put it back on blur. Let's just say, all right, this is okay how I like it, so I'll leave it on blur. And to get back to the meeting, I'm gonna come to the top right and click on the X. Now, with the way we set up this meeting, our microphone isn't set up, but if let's say that I didn't want anything I was saying to transmit to the meeting. So here, instead of usually it would say mute here instead of audio. So if I clicked on mute, it's going to toggle our microphone. So that means it's going to turn off our microphone. We're not going to be able to talk to anyone else in the meeting because we're muted. And to unmute, I'd press, when you press mute, it's going to say unmute instead. So if I wanted to unmute, I would press unmute in the bottom left here. And then everyone in the meeting would be able to hear what we're saying. Now let's say that Darth Vader is feeling a little self-conscious. He doesn't want people to see him right now. So if you click on where it says stop video, that's to the bottom left, and that's also to the right of our what was normally the mute button. If I press on that, it's not going to show the camera anymore. And then let's say Darth Vader has regained his confidence. So I'm going to click on start video, and our camera is going to turn back on. Now, Darth Vader just noticed that his name isn't Darth Vader, but it's Library Technology. So we want to fix that. I'm going to click on Participants. That's to the left of the share screen button. And if I come to the right here, where this window just popped up, this is the Participants window. And so right now there's only 2 people in the meeting. So there's only showing 2 of us, otherwise it would show more otherwise. If I hovered over with my mouse on myself, and I clicked on the 3 dots here, I can click rename. So this is another way that say you forgot to change your name before the meeting. This is another option for you to do it here. So I'm going to put in Darth Vader. I'm going to press change. Now, if I look at the bottom left, it says Darth Vader instead of Library Technology. And on the right side here in the participants window, it also has the correct name. And you can rename yourself as many times as you want. Of course, if you're in a professional meeting, you probably don't want to do something like that. Now, if let's say that you wanted to chat, um, if the window is bigger, the chat button will be one of the options here, but it's not. And the way to find the chat button is if you click on the very right side button, not the leave button, but where it says more. And at the top of this menu, we have chat. If I click on chat, it's going to show the chat menu, which is the bottom section here. But let's say I wanted this to be it's to show on the entire right side of the screen. I can click on this close button here, the X button. If I left click on it, it's going to get rid of the participants menu, and it's only going to show us the chat menu. So now there's nothing here in the chat right now, but we can have Darth Vader say hello, and we'll see one of the first things you see is say it's you. So you yourself is sending to everyone. So let's say I only wanted to talk to Palpatine. If I if I come back to the bottom and I click on where it says everyone, is going to bring down a drop down menu. I can actually have myself directly message Palpatine. Hello, Emperor Palpatine. And if you come back up to where our chat message is, you can see it says yourself or you to Palpatine, and it also is in the right in parentheses, red parentheses, it's going to say direct message. So that's how we know that we sent a direct message. And just below that, we'll see that we also got a direct message. So it's Palpatine sending a message to us. And again, in the red text and red parentheses, it says direct message. And if I wanted to go back, if I wanted to talk to everyone instead, I'll click on the drop-down menu like before and click on everyone. And I can type another message. And we'll see once again that instead of direct message, we are setting to everyone. So that is really neat. Another neat feature, I'm going to close the chat message, the chat window by coming up to the top right. And make sure that you're not mistaking this close button with this close button, because you might accidentally leave the meeting otherwise. But Zoom does have a nice feature where if you do click on that button, it's going to ask if you want to leave the meeting. But we won't mess with that right now. So I'm going to close this chat window. And another thing we can do while we're in a meeting are notes. So if I come down to the bottom here, I'm going to click on this notes button. It's going to bring up another window on the right. And I'm going to click on new on the top left here. And it's going to let you take notes of, whatever you wanted to talk about, of the details of the meeting, your own opinions and thoughts. I'm going to say that Emperor Palpatine was very accommodating. And so, oh, I spelled that wrong. Accommodating. You know what? It seems to be escaping me right now. But it is nice that Notes also has spell check, so you see the red squiggly lines under what it thinks might be spelled wrong. And Palpatine, that is a pronoun, so that is it would check pronouns as well, but this is something we can ignore, and that we'll just leave alone for now. But notes so they will save, um, and you can share them to other people, and the share button here, we won't do that right now, but you can share them with other people, and you can also collaborate with other people on notes, on your notes or on their notes. So I'm going to close the notes window, and we can also, let's see, we can do reactions. So to get to reactions, if you click on the More button on the bottom right, and you click on reactions, we have a few options here. So one of the most customary one is raise hand. When you click raise hand, this is the best way. This is one of the main ways that you get the host of the meeting's attention. And so when you raise the hand, the host will see that you raise a hand, and they can choose to pay you attention or not. And let's say that you had a question, but you changed your mind, you found out the answer already. If we come down to lower hand, we can get rid of that raised hand on our screen. So I'm gonna click on lower hand, and that hand will go away. So those are most of the main things that we can do while being the participant in a meeting. Now we're gonna get a taste of how it feels to actually host a meeting. So to leave a meeting, I'm gonna press leave on the bottom right. It's gonna ask me again, leave meeting. I'm gonna press on that. Now to host a meeting, um, the initial way that we probably would want to do it is new meeting. I'm gonna click on that, and I'm join with computer audio. And now we're gonna see a few different things right away, which was mostly the stuff on the bottom, and we'll get into that. So the first thing we want to look over is security. So when we press on that, there's a whole list of options that we can look through. So first, we don't want to leave our our guests waiting. So I'm going to click enable waiting room. And so what this does is whenever people join the meeting, instead of joining the meeting immediately, the host can accept them as they come. So if you can, this is a great way of not letting people you don't know into the meeting, just so that you have that little bit of privacy and security, right? And then another option is lock meeting. If I pressed on this, this would mean that no one else would be able to join the meeting. So we're having someone join the meeting right now, but as we saw earlier, I pressed enable waiting room. So they're going to join very shortly, and we'll see something on screen that shows that there's someone in the waiting room waiting for our approval for them to join the meeting. Just a second. So if someone was trying to join your meeting and they didn't have your meeting ID, if you come up to the top left of the screen, you're going to see this little green shield button. If you click on that, they're going to see all this information. So the meeting ID is at the top. This is what the person will use to connect to our meeting. And then they'll see the passcode, which they'll use to actually gain access. Also, if you didn't want your participants to go through putting in your meeting ID and the passcode, you can also use the link they have here. You can copy the link and you can email that to someone, you can text it to someone, and they'll be able to join through that link. So we see here that someone has entered the waiting room. So they'll show their name, and if I click on view, it's going to bring up a participants window, but above that is going to show everyone in the waiting room. So if I hover over a person's name or their profile, I can either admit them or remove them. I'm going to admit them, so show that they are joining the meeting. And we'll see here that, yep, they've successfully joined the meeting. They're connected to the audio and all of that. And as a host, you have uh, many options you can either admit or limit a participant to. So let's say that a person is being very noisy and we don't want them to be talking anymore. If I hover over a person's profile, I can click unmute and now they won't be able to talk. And then if I wanted them to unmute, I can press ask to unmute and they can unmute themselves as we saw there. Let's show that again. That was pretty quick for me. So you see to the left of that red uh, camera icon, which is crossed out, which is slashed out, which means that they aren't showing the camera, is the microphone icon. So if it's just in gray, that means that they are unmuted. They can talk whenever they want to. If I press mute on them, it's going to be red, just like that camera icon, and slashed out. So that means that they can't talk because they are muted. So I'll ask them to unmute again, and we'll see that once they've unmuted themselves, the microphone icon goes back to gray. And there's also a few more options we can have for them. If we hover over their profile, there's another option instead of mute. I'm going to click on those three dots, and here we have a few options. I can ask them to start their video. If I click on chat, it's going to start a direct message to them. I can pin them so that I'll see them no matter how many people join the meeting. I can remove the pin. I can make them the host if I need them to have all their permissions for whatever reason. You can even rename a participant if you felt like it, but I'm not feeling like that right now, so I won't. And if they're, if they're being unruly or I don't want them in the meeting right now, I can put them in a waiting room and have someone else join. Or, if I'm just still preparing my materials, I can put them in a meeting room then as well. And at the bottom, if I wanted to remove them, I can press remove. So some of these options are also in the security options, but security is a little more, it's meeting wide. So if I come up, so to get to the security menu, if you come to the bottom of the Zoom meeting window, you can click on security and this drop-down menu will show up. Or in this case, I guess you could call it a drop-up menu. So if we come up to the white bold text, it says allow all participants to. So right now, participants aren't able to share the screen. And how I know that is that there is no check mark to the left of share screen. If you look right below that, there's a check mark next to chat. That means all participants are able to chat. So I could turn it off, and that means that participants won't be able to chat. But, this isn't one of those meetings. We can chat all we want. So I'm going to turn that back on. So if I were to click on share screen, the check mark is going to show, and that means all participants will be able to share their screen. So, and you say we have a more professional meeting. We don't want people to be able to rename themselves. So I'm going to turn that off and we'll see that there's no check mark next to that. And say, yeah, I don't want them to unmute themselves. So I can click on that. And so there's a few other settings that, let's see, if you wanted participants to, if you wanted their cameras to automatically start when they join the meeting, you could have that on. Usually people have this off because, we want to respect their privacy if that's one of those meetings, but otherwise, if it's a very professional meeting, then you probably might want to have this on. And sharing whiteboards. So whiteboards is something we'll get to just shortly after this. And share notes. So I showed notes earlier and how you can collaborate that with people. So you can share notes within meetings as well. But if we didn't want that to go on, we can turn this off. And if you come down here, if you clicked on suspend participant activities, if I click on that, that means that they basically won't be able to have any interaction within the meeting. They're only going to be seeing and hearing what the host is saying or the co-host is what they're saying or sharing on the screen. So if this is that type of meeting, you can suspend all participant activities. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to press cancel. It's going to bring us back to our main screen. Now I'm going to show sharing screen. I'm going to open up a browser real quick. Now, of course, you won't be able to see that browser because I'm not sharing my screen, at least not sharing my screen for this meeting. So if I click on share screen, it's going to give us a bunch of options. So I can just show what I'm seeing right now. I can choose a particular application. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on what I want to share, and it's the Google Chrome tab I want to share. Click on that. And if I come to the bottom right, you can press on the share button. Now, all of you can see what I'm doing on this browser. You can see I'm typing in the link to get to our library website, sclibrary.org. And if I navigate to it, you can see our beautiful library website. Now say I wanted to stop sharing because maybe I'm doing something private on here that is not something I want to share with the meeting. If I come up to the top here where it says, oh, I just went away. Um, oh, if I move, let's see. So if you come to the top and it's going to bring down this menu But you can press stop share. I'm gonna press stop share, and you guys won't be able to see the the browser we were just looking at. Of course, we can. So that's sharing the screen. There's some other options there if you need a little more personalization, but that's the main one. Another thing we can do um, are whiteboards. So if I click on new whiteboard here, and whiteboard is at the bottom along with the other options we've been talking about. On whiteboards you can draw, you can post sticky notes, you can, this is another way of interacting with your participants or having participants, be able to interact with you. So if you see that thing moving around, that is our other participant in the meeting. So we see what they've drawn, we can see what they're typing, and that's great. And that's, um, you can also have the um, security settings be where other people can't interact with your whiteboard at all. And so you can share whiteboards with each other after the fact of the meeting. You can collaborate even after the meeting is done. And, if you have an existing whiteboard, like we saw earlier, if I were to click on, if I stopped sharing the whiteboard, I close whiteboard. If you click on that little arrow where it says before, I mean, not the arrow, sorry, just the whiteboard button, you can click on existing whiteboards. And this lets you bring up something. Maybe you had something you prepared earlier that you wanted to show to everyone in the meeting. That's something you can do as well. Now, so what a particular host setting that I want to bring attention to is that, so normally in a meeting, when someone joins that, well, it's not normally, but one of there's two things. If you have someone join a meeting, it's going to play a chime, and everyone in the meeting can hear that chime. But if you're in a meeting with a lot of people like this one, you don't want to have that on. So right now there's no check mark next to it, but if I were to click on it, it will show a check mark next to the setting, play chime for raised hands. So for this small meeting, if you're having like, friends or personal people join, then you may as well have this on because it lets you know that someone's joined, lets everyone else know that someone has joined. And there's also the recognize hand gestures. So if you don't want to have people show that they want something through their gestures or their reactions, then you can have this off like it is now. So that is most of what I wanted to go over on hosting a meeting. Um, okay, so I'm gonna end this meeting, not the one that we're all in right now, but this example meeting. I'll press end. And so this is another host feature. You can press end the meeting for all. If I left the meeting, I'd be asked to choose a host. I'll choose a host, and then I left, and I'll leave, but the meeting still goes on for everyone else. But I'm gonna end the meeting for all, so that meeting will be done. So if I look at the top of our Zoom window right now, there's some other things that I want to look at. I'm going to show you guys. So meetings, if I click on meetings on the left-hand side here, it's going to show me any upcoming meetings I have, you know, scheduled or things I'd put on my calendar, and those would show up on the left side here. And recorded, we don't have any recorded meetings on this one right now, but say after this meeting ends, this is going to show up in my recorded window. And whiteboards, this is going to show all the whiteboards that, we've done, anything we've collaborated in. If I click on this one, we'll see that it did in fact save the whiteboard that we were just working on earlier. We'll see the one I wrote the wow, and then we had another participant draw and cool. And once again, if you come to the top right and share, you can share it through email, through through their contact if you save them a contact in your Zoom contacts. So if I click on that, yeah, there's a few options there. And yeah, it's another great way to collaborate with people on Zoom. Another way to collaborate, like we went over before, is Notes. So Notes is on the very right side of the top of our Zoom meeting, our Zoom window, sorry. And we'll see notes that we've worked on in the past. We'll also see notes here that some people have shared with us, or then, we're collaborating with them. So if I click on a note, it's going to show everything that we've typed. So, yep, this is the one we were working on before. That is awesome. And you can, if you wanted to make a notes here, you can press on new and you can write down your thoughts and opinions to share with people in the middle of the meeting, just if you wanted to have prepared materials. Same goes for the whiteboard. You can make a new one by pressing on the new button on the top right, and you can make a prepared, you can have prepared material for that appropriate meeting. Okay. So another thing I want to look at are our settings. So if you noticed before when we looked at our video settings for our camera, when we set up our background, it brought up a whole different menu that had a lot of different options that we didn't really go through. So we're going to go through that now. If you come to the top right of your Zoom window, so we're going to click on this icon, which is our profile. If I click on that, and what we're looking for in the drop-down menu is where it says settings. So that's more on the bottom side of the menu. I'm gonna click on settings. And there's a lot of things here we can do to personalize our Zoom. So maybe you're using Zoom in a dark area, the white background is a bit harsh on the eyes. If I click on dark instead, we'll see that the background goes from white to black and the text becomes white. So this might be a little easier on your eyes if that's something you're looking for. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it on light. If we click on video, we can see the preview of the camera. So Darth Vader is sitting very nicely for us there, showing us, how the camera is working. If you wanted to mirror the video, you could do that. You could turn off and on. So right now it's mirrored with it's on, but if you unmirror it, this is what you normally would see. And audio, say you had um, a, a speaker, your computer speakers, and then you had like a set of headphones that you plugged in. If the audio was playing through the speakers, but you wanted it to play through your headphones, you can come to the audio settings. If you click on where it says remote audio, it's going to bring down a drop down menu. And while that isn't working right now, it's just the way we set it up, but for some reason it's not going too well. You would see like there'd be two options. It'd be like speakers, and the second one would be like, it would show whatever headphones you had set up. Okay, so, and then like before we saw background effects, if you wanted to change how, your camera was presenting before you were in a meeting, you can change it now. So I can change the backgrounds, and if I set this on San Francisco and left it there, when I joined a meeting, I wouldn't have any other setting. It would show, San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge as the background and nothing else. And if you come down to accessibility, so sometimes in a meeting, you can have closed captions on. So that will show text or whatever the person is saying. And if it's too small for you, you can hold down on this blue dot and slide it across to have the text become larger. So if you notice in this black box that the text has become bigger as we drag the slider to our right. So if I slide it more to the right, you'll see that the text in the box is becoming even bigger and bigger. But if I wanted to put it back to its normal size, I can drag the slider all the way to the left, and we see that the text is a lot smaller. So That's to your own preference. You can even change the color of the captions if that's something that you'd like. And chat display size. So let's say that you have a lot of people typing in the chat window, but the chat looking a little too small for your taste. You can change it to your 200% so that everything in the chat will be that much bigger, including the font. Or the font is the words that we're seeing in the chat window. So I'm gonna put this back to 100%. So those are most of the oh, I see one last thing. Yeah, on profile, if we wanted to change our name before the meeting, this is another way we could do it. If I clicked on edit my, oh, nope, not that one, sorry. Well, if you click on edit my profile, it brings you to the Zoom website where there are more settings there, but most of them aren't really too important. So that's not something we really want to worry about right now. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to go over. Looks like we have plenty of time for questions. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.
All right. Thanks for that, James. Hey, everybody, I'm Paul. I'm helping James out with the Q&A portion of our class tonight. So I only have one in the queue right now. So if you have any questions, just a reminder, you can go down to the Q&A button down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you can type in your question, and we will answer them as best we can. So the one that we have right now, um, someone's asking about, and this has happened to me too, when Zoom says you have an unstable internet connection. Um, so they're getting that message pretty often, but there doesn't seem to actually be a problem with their internet. So this is more of a troubleshooting question than anything. Um, I don't know, James, do you have any thoughts? I have one or two.
No, go ahead if there's something that I think you missed, I'll go ahead and say it.
Okay. I mean, my first instinct would be to uninstall and reinstall Zoom in a situation like that. So this question came in a few minutes ago, so I did have a chance to Google it while the class was going on, and it doesn't look like Zoom has a solution. It's a bug that seems to have come up for a few people, and it doesn't look like Zoom has a solution for it quite yet. But when all else fails, doing a fresh install of software seems to help with a lot of issues. So if you haven't tried that, that might be one thing to do. Um, but beyond that, that might be a tougher troubleshooting issue than we can help you with.
It also might just be a question of the strength of your internet at the moment. So maybe you're sitting in a far corner of your house where your modem can't quite reach. So check that that might be something that you could look to fix as a possible solution.
Okay, great. The next question we have, can participants type on the whiteboard instead of drawing?
So yeah, absolutely. So that's something I skipped over on whiteboards, but when you open a whiteboard, there are options on the left-hand side of that window where you can actually put text boxes instead of just drawing. So you click on the text box option, you click somewhere in the whiteboard and you can start typing. And then you can also change your font type, the size and the color. So yeah, you don't have to be relegated to just, messy scribbling with your mouse.
Excellent, perfect. Okay, and the next question that I see um, is why don't I get the first screen that has all the things at the top of the screen? Like I never see the three dots. Might need to get a little more specific to be able to answer that. James, do you think you have an idea of what this question's asking?
So I definitely know about the three dots. So that more button, it usually shows up when you have Zoom not fully maximized on your screen. So if it's maximized, all the options should show up on the bottom. So that might be why you don't see the three dots, if that's what you're talking about. But for the first screen that you said has the things at the top of the screen, um, if you're talking about the sharing screen window, that is reserved for the person that is sharing the screen. The other participants won't be able to see that because, that just adds clutter, and those are reserved for settings for the meeting. Let's see, three dots.
James, since we have some time, do you want to maybe do another screen share and just show everybody what you're talking about when you say how the buttons reappear when you resize the window?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let me start a new meeting and I'll share it. Okay, so I can we have another question from Elizabeth is asking why the presentation was so small. Um, if I had the if I have the window maximized, so as it is here, um, I was told that some of the stuff might look too small compared to the window, so it might be a little harder for other people to see what we were talking about, but it looks like even then we had a little trouble. But yeah, so if you have the zoom window maximized, you'll see that there's no more button here. There's no more button with the three dots. And if I came to the top right and clicked on the uh, unmaximize, it's called restore down, we'll see that that more button is back and there are less options on the bottom here simply because there just isn't enough space for them to all show.
Excellent. Thanks, James. And I think we got a little more clarity on the question, which is that the participant is mentioning that they only can see the Q&A button, show captions, and raise hand when they look at their bottom bar. So that makes a lot more sense to me because this meeting that we're in is a little different because it's a webinar. So since everyone besides James and myself are just participants in the webinar, you're a lot more limited in the things that you can see. Um, so like, for example, at the beginning of the lesson, James showed us what it looks like to be a participant in a regular Zoom meeting. So the security button wasn't there and there were fewer controls. So this same applies to a webinar like this, the one that we're in, except you are even more locked down in what kind of controls you have. And you probably also noticed that you're not able to mute or unmute yourself. You don't have any audio controls, and you don't have the ability to show your own video.
So of course that isn't the norm for all Zoom meetings you'll be in. That's just what we have for this meeting because that's how we thought would the program would run as smoothly as possible. So if you're in like a small class meeting, you might have the ability to you will have the ability to unmute yourselves. You might have more options at the bottom, unlike how you do now.
Perfect. All right. Our next question. Someone says they often have multiple applications running while participating in a Zoom meeting, such as a Chrome browser like you demoed for us. When and how do I know if I have too many applications that might be affecting my Zoom video stability?
So we didn't have really much moving activity on what I was sharing other than like my mouse cursor moving around. So one way you would know if your video stability is going haywire, like if I were to put on a video on the screen and if for some reason the video to you is looking very choppy and not smooth. So that's one way you would know that it's affecting your stability. Um, even like for audio stability, if my voice was coming into you like as if I was like sounded like a robot, or you can only hear parts and snippets of what I was saying, that's another way to find out if your performance is being affected by other applications you have running.
Great answer. Thank you, James. Okay. Um, Next question. Is it possible to have a saved name just for some meetings I attend? Uh, for instance, if I'm going to business meetings, I would rather use a formal name. A personal meeting, I would use, a more casual or nickname. So I guess the question is there a way to save both of those so that you can select one or the other when going to a meeting of one type or the other?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if Zoom has that feature right now, but Zoom has made it very easy. It gives you multiple options or at different times to change the name that you're showing on your screen. We can go over that again right now. Let me share my screen again. So like before, if when you press on the join meeting button, it will give you the option to change your name. And if you're in a meeting, if you go to the participants window, you can change your name there. So, um, yeah, you do have a few times where you can change your name. So, but to answer your question, yeah, I don't think that Zoom has that capability to have multiple preset names.
Yep, I think you are right about that, James. I don't know of any feature like that. Okay. Next question. I log into Zoom from different devices. When I do so, it seems, I guess this person is saying the settings seem different across the different devices they log in from. For example, in one device, they have a profile picture for when their camera is off, and when they're on a different device, that picture doesn't show up. And I think I might know what's going on there, but I'll let you have a first crack at it, James.
It's probably not the issue, but if you're signed on to different accounts on your different devices, may have different settings. Otherwise, sometimes when you use Zoom on on different devices, the way things show on one device might not be the same as another device. You know, the interface and the way it all looks will be still similar, but for small details like that, it's very possible that it won't show uh your profile picture.
I think that you're right about that, James. The only thing that I want to add, and it's something we didn't go over in this class because, like James said, well, one, there wasn't enough time, and for two, there's much more stuff than is really relevant to your day-to-day Zoom experience. But there is a web portal you can use to do more granular controls for your Zoom account. And on there, if I believe if you set your profile picture within that web portal, then your picture is going to show up no matter where you're signing in from. No matter, even if you're using different devices that you haven't used before, your profile picture should follow you around. Whereas if you're setting your profile picture from within a meeting, which is something you can do, that's only going to stay there while you're on that device. That might be what's happening as well. Okay, and I do not see any other questions. So I think we can start to wrap it up. If any more come in, we might have time to answer one or two more. So if you still have questions, feel free to type them. And otherwise, we will start going through closing the class.
Yeah, so if you're still interested in classes like this, please check our library website for our future offerings. You can also see our other programs and resources we have for patrons of the library. Um, Let me show you our library website. So our library website is at sclibrary.org. And once you open the website, at the bottom right, you can see here that you can sign up for our newsletter. You can choose what you want to subscribe to. And so whenever we have new events, new offerings, you'll get notified for anything that we have new for you. So please, when you're on your way out of the meeting, please take a moment to fill out our feedback survey. Survey is going to provide us a lot of helpful information to make our future classes better. You can also give us suggestions on what you want. Um, And on their website, there's a place for you to, if you have suggestions for our other technology classes, if you look under services and you go down to technology class requests on that form, you can request that we do a different type of class that you're looking for, but for some reason we just didn't get to yet. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I think we're just going to go ahead and close out the webinar. Thank you guys everyone for joining us, and we'll be happy to see you again in the future.